This has aroused distrust, alienation, and rage over the disparities in treatment of civilians, and especially people of color, compared to police officers, and especially those officers who are white. It has been maintained by government officials and law enforcement leadership that the disparities are due to the higher rates of criminality and violence in the neighborhoods where people of color reside. But they fail to see how police actions contribute to problems experienced in those communities. The increasingly weaponized and confrontational tactics used widely in law enforcement across the country have deepened divisions and fomented anger among civilians who have been stopped, frisked, and arrested without probable cause, have been adjudicated for trivial crimes, denied due process in the judicial system, been incarcerated for absurdly lengthy sentences, often with a great deal of that sentence served in solitary confinement, have had civil rights and freedom of movement and voting privileges taken away, face significant barriers to employment due to criminal records, and continue to be under the surveillance of the justice system even after serving their sentences. Police officers, on the other hand, seem immune from prosecution in even egregious cases, even in White Plains, I might add. And they are not alone. People of color who live in economically poor neighborhoods are in jail at this very moment for small crimes such as possessing marijuana. They are not joined by their wealthy white counterparts, who are at least as likely to have marijuana with them, but won't be subjected to being stopped and frisked. Meanwhile, major crimes committed by whites with far-reaching and disastrous consequences are not even addressed. The lack of prosecution of responsible individuals in the financial industry is a prime example. Indicting Darren Wilson would clearly not solve the nation's law enforcement problems, but it would have sent a message that the justice system in St. Louis County would be open to public review of the court's deliberations. That opportunity has been squandered, and perhaps the law enforcement community in St. Louis County expects that there will be a return to standard operating procedures. We hope that is not the case. We hope that calls for reform in law enforcement policies and practices will be heeded, and that St. Louis County and all the counties of our nation will take positive steps toward a more just and equitable system of justice. We stand in solidarity with people across our nation to the chorus of individuals and organizations who are calling for change. May we be peaceful, yet loud and persistent in our efforts, and may we stand firm until justice prevails.
All right.
Hands up! Don't shoot! Hands up!
Don't shoot.
Hands up!
Don't shoot.
Hands up!
Don't shoot.
And it's not just in Ferguson, Missouri that this happens. It happens in each and every city in the United States. And it's only when people like us here come together and tell our elected officials that we're not going to put them back in positions of power at our tax dollar, and we're not going to allow them to divide us based on race and gender and ethnicity, all right? Then we're going to stand together and we're going to we're going to embrace the word accountability. We're always told we got to be accountable for what we do. If any of us do anything that is outside of the bounds of the law, expect to be held accountable. Expect to hear a politician tell you that you need to make amends. You need to take responsibility for your actions. And even if you plead guilty in a federal courthouse, over in White Plains at the federal courthouse, you're likely to have a federal prosecutor tell you you did not accept responsibility. Now, how much more responsibility can you accept other than to say, I'm guilty, I'm sorry? But we have to hold our law enforcement officials to that same standard. We have to have zero tolerance for police abuse, zero tolerance for police misconduct. It shouldn't only be zero tolerance when we have the transgression. You have to build trust by building relationships in the community. You have to realize that we, most of us here, are members of the Westchester Coalition for Police Reform. And if you are interested in what we're talking about today and you are not a member, we invite you to join us. And we would love your input. None of us have the answer, But we know that we can't stop and stay where we are right now. And there was a little child here, maybe just left. That's what we're fighting for. We're fighting for them. Okay, they didn't ask to be brought into this world, but they're here now. And we owe it to them. And I say it all the time, and I'm going to say it again. We don't inherit this world from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children. We have a duty to them to leave it better than it is right now. And as you look around, we're a very diverse group. Nobody I know here has hatred in their heart. Nobody. And if any, and there are those here where if you were going to hold hatred in your heart, you would be justified, if anyone is justified. And sometimes those who would have the most justification are the best examples. And I'm talking about Kenneth Chamberlain right now. Okay, I can tell you right now, and he has said it, and he doesn't just say it, he lives it. He embraces people of all backgrounds, and we as a group embrace law enforcement and encourage them to join with us so we can have best practices, so that we can trust them again, so that I don't have to be concerned about telling my client to call 911 when he's having a psychiatric episode, which just happened last week. And instead of telling him to call 911, I asked him to call a cab, because if he called 911, in my mind I would be committing malpractice because I would be putting him in harm's way. Now where are we then? What world are we living in where we pay taxes to support a system that we are afraid of? I am more fearful that someone from law enforcement will take my life or the life of a loved one than I am that ISIS will. I'm not concerned if someone from ISIS is going to come down on Mamaroneck Avenue and try to kill me. I'm not concerned if someone from Al-Qaeda is going to come and try to kill me. But I guarantee you that I am concerned, and with good reason, that someone from law enforcement could kill me, particularly if I have a medical call. Because unfortunately, my firm now has 4 cases. 4 cases where we represent people who've either been killed or shot by police when they're there to help you. Now, how can we not have a conversation about this? And there's accountability to go along for everyone. Yes, the community has accountability, but when we start to talk about the accountability of the community, then we ignore the accountability of law enforcement. And we only want to focus on the community.
Just possibly, if that entire building at 135 South Lexington had come outside on November 19, 2011, Father might be alive today. He might be, because they may not have acted the way that they did. So this is why we have to understand we do have the power. We do have it. Dr. Martin Luther King said an American institution cannot be expected to function without pressure. And he also said that time comes when silence is betrayal. But I say silence is a coward's option. And there's no option for mine. So there will be justice for Kenneth Chamberlain Sr. Thank you.
We have fought amongst ourselves over lies that we told ourselves throughout every age and every decade of our lives here together in this country, and in every aspect of our life together. That includes nationally, that includes in our cities, that includes in our communities, and it even goes straight into our very homes. Until we are willing to adopt and address, this very fact, and adopt a national consciousness and a culture of true community for all people, regardless of color, regardless of sex, our sexual orientation, regardless of ability, regardless of anything that makes us unique. This is a ward home that will never, ever end. Friends, brothers and sisters, we are the beloved community that King has called us to be, are we not? The beloved community is a place where everyone has enough and no one has too little, but yet we are looking at pictures of Ferguson, Missouri, where there are so many people who have way too little. Too little of justice, too little of trust, too little of faith in the own system that's supposed to protect them. What is wrong with this picture? This is not a time for us to call for peace, but rather a time for us to yell, cry, and scream out for justice. Because without justice, we will never have peace. Is that right? That's right. Now let me tell you what justice is. Justice is not giving you a nice Band-Aid that will make you feel better for today. Justice is not giving you an indictment that will make you feel better for maybe this month. Justice is not coming around and having vigils every single month because of something that keeps happening. Justice is actually seeking to restore balance where there was balance or where there was never balance and it has been broken. We have seen a broken of this balance system. Justice is supposed to be for everyone. But last night we saw that justice was only for one side. We are out of balance, right? And last night, Darren Wilson received the benefit of that unbalance. And the family of Michael Brown Jr. did not receive the benefit of that balance. And this continues to happen here, even in Westchester County and New York State, actually all across our country. This will never stop. This is a war at home that will never stop until we remain uncomfortable, we remain strategic in how we move forward, and we also, if you are a person of faith, we remain prayerful and also act on that prayer. Justice doesn't just come to you if you cry out and say, give us justice. Justice requires action. Because justice is not something that you just have. It is something that you must seek. It is something that you must do in order to obtain. That is the call to action for all of us every day of our lives. Every day. Because without justice, there will not be what? No peace. Amen. No peace. No justice.
No peace.
That we see that there is injustice on all levels. And in the recent verdicts, Zimmerman trial, Jordan Davis, we continually see a justice system that continually and systematically places no value on black life. And so we're out here and we're saying that these things need to change. We're asking that our elected officials come out and speak out to these injustices. We're asking that our law enforcement even come out and say that if they know officers or even civilians that are doing things wrong, that they be held accountable and that you just place some type of value in the lives of our children.
Awesome. Thank you very much. It was good to see you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good evening, everyone. How you guys doing?
Good.
It's good to be out here. Even though it's cold, we're here for a good cause, so that's what that matters. Well, my name is Samuels. Samson Maldonado. I'm from the Bronx. I'm not going to take up too much of your time, so I'm just going to get straight into it. I have a question. Do I look suspicious? Does my birth certificate say criminal on the dotted line? Are my veins filled with black ink? Does my presence come with a beer-wear sign? Do I have an ID with an inmate serial number? Does my clothes remind you of a jumpsuit? Do I walk around like there was a gun in my pocket? Does my limp remind you of a thug? Is listening to hip-hop a crime? Does my hoodie make me look hood? Am I a gangster just because I sag my pants? Is my skull cap a face mask to you? Do do-rags make these dudes lack common sense? Does drinking Arizona iced tea make me look black? Did you lack to see the pack of Skittles I held? Did you not see the rainbow of my innocence? Are the colors too faded or are you colorblind? Are my tattoos too taboo for you? Is my bandana too satanic? If I was to let my hair hang, would you hang me too when I was born? Was my umbilical cord replaced with a noose with the word knucklehead? Engraved in my head was the phrase, good for nothing, imprinted on my skin. Is the complexion of my skin a sin? Is that why you punish me? Are you a god to minorities? Does killing people like me give you royalties? Or did you provide the devil with some loyalty? Because the reality is, these Oscar grants have not been paid. These Sean Bells have not been rung. These 41 shots have not been heard. So this is what I'ma do for Diallo. For these Diablos who think it's cool to keep sparking, to take another minority's life just like Trayvon Martin's. I wonder who is next. Is it me or is it you? George Zimmerman, do I look suspicious to you? Does my presence put fear in you? Now just tell me if you are around for another night and I was that young boy in the hood. Would you have killed me too? Now tell me. Take a look into my eyes. Take a look at what you call delinquent skin and tell me, do I look suspicious?